105.5 Hits FM, Taylor B along with you. And I'm not alone. Today, we are starting a new segment I am so excited about. We have talked about local farming and farming in our community for so long. So I thought it is time to start a segment all around the farming industry. So joining me now is my good friend Kelsey from Cooper's CSA Farm. Hey, Kels, how's it going?
Good. How are you?
Like I said, I'm so excited. I don't even know where to start. I'm a little overwhelmed, but I'm excited for this tractor talk because I cannot wait to call you in an actual tractor and be like, hey, how's the weather going up there? Whatever you do, because the whole point of this is to explain what exactly you actually do in a tractor, etc. So I thought we could start today with a little bit of an overview of who you are, what makes you a local farmer. Did you grow up on a farm? Did you go to school for farming? How does this all work? How did you become a farmer?
So for me, it was very different. I kind of fell into agriculture face first. It was rough and it was awkward.
In manure?
Yeah, lots of manure.
Sorry, that's my first of 10 terrible jokes.
Okay, 1 of 10. So I never knew what I wanted to do, just kind of tried this and that. And then out of high school, I met my boyfriend, and the only way to hang out with him was to do chores because he was a farmer. Never had time for me because he, had to hang out with the cows. So I said, well, why don't I help you? And I started doing chores with him, and his parents were like, well, we might as well pay you if you're going to work this much. And it kind of just escalated from there. And, 5 years later, I'm working with Cooper CSA Farm seasonally. And I ended up going to agriculture college down in Ridgetown. And now I'm working full-time with them seasonally. And it's been fun. It definitely was not something that I considered, and it just happened. And there's people think you have to, be born into a farming family to be a farmer, which is so not the case. There's so much going on in this industry, whether it's working out in the field, marketing, selling seed,
even the
packaging.
nutrients for the food for the animals and stuff like that, right?
Exactly. Like there's so many different kinds of things to do with farming and where your food comes from and how it's grown. It's not just farmers out in fields. There's so much more to it that people just really don't know about.
So when you say you went to college for agriculture, I'm trying to picture what an agriculture school looks like. Does it look like your traditional college, or are there barns in the back where there's animals that you learn how to take care of? What's the situation there?
Yeah, that's a good question, actually, because I thought the same thing going to this tiny school in the middle of nowhere, just almost at Windsor. So I go down there, and it's a small school, and yes, it's surrounded by farm fields because they're test plots. A lot of it was research for the Ontario Farming Association, so they kind of can join. So there you'll see like barns, like my classes were with barns. I was working with cows, pigs, sheep. We had like theoretical classes. So like a chemist would have, chemistry class that they'd be learning. We had livestock, plant health, crops, and rotations. Like they were specialty classes made just for learning different aspects of farming.
So it's also hands-on, but also academic in the sense that you're actually learning what goes into it and then applying what you're learning physically with these test plots and these barns and these animals.
Yeah, exactly. And you could there is like every college course, there's like the mandatory first few you have to take, and then you can kind of branch off which way you want to go, which was kind of cool. It's not a huge branch, but you could choose to more work with cows, or if you are someone who just likes to plant crops, you can kind of go into that. It's very interesting that they could take that kind of stuff and make it into a program. Our professors are researchers, so after they're done working, they come and teach us, which is kind of interesting because you're actually learning from farmers and from researchers. So it's not just someone who went to school and learned the subject. You're actually learning from someone who's been doing it for so long.
Which is definitely beneficial. And when you say kind of electives, I keep thinking in my head, sheep 101, cow 101.
You're not even wrong. That is it. If I did pull my textbook, I think that's spot on.
Honestly, that's hilarious, but also really cool. The fact that you didn't grow up within the farming industry and you kind of organically grew into it. Haha. Another one.
Good one. 2 of 10.
Yeah, count them up. You organically came into it and then you thought, let me pursue a career, and actually pursued an education within the industry. It's something that I think for a long time, people didn't realize that you actually went to school to learn how to be a farmer. And it's not just something that you learn through generation and generation and generation. You can, but also if you don't have that luxury, that you can pursue it in a different aspect and still be successful. So one thing I wanted to talk about today was when we talk about buying local, supporting local, shopping local, within the farming industry, does local mean within your radius of, let's say, 5-10 kilometers from where you live? Or what exactly is local to the farming industry?
Yeah, so local is kind of in like tiers. So, if you're buying Canadian, that's great. Keep it in Canada. If you're buying in your province, even better. If you're buying within like kilometers, like if you can drive to your local farm or farmer's market and get something from them, that is key. That is optimal. That is kind of what the bread and butter of buying local is to get it as close to you as possible. Because eating local is kind of a term that's becoming like really stressed on people, and I think it's starting to kind of like brush over people's heads. So if you really want to eat local, just try and keep it within your city limits, within 50 kilometers kind of thing.
Right. And if you can't, the next best thing is to kind of look Ontario-wide. Is it from our province? Is my understanding. And you said an interesting fact about a lot of locally grown food in Ontario that we have no idea that's actually grown. So we have access to pretty much every kind of vegetable and everything within our own province, if I'm correct. But what is our biggest exporter of food? Do you know? Is it corn?
Oh, that's really testing my my knowledge.
If you were just to take a wild guess.
Exporting, we have the prairies, Saskatchewan, Manitoba. They are, wheat, grains, corn. They're going out. I
forgot about wheat.
We do a lot of, corn, makes beer, goes to China, Sapporo. The big export of those large grain crops would be like the big thing, but that's a commodity, what they call a commodity market. Not so much to do with consumers. That's more being shipped to make bigger products, flour and stuff. We don't do many exporting of small vegetables kind of thing. A lot of we have a deficit. Canada imports way more food than we export. And that's crazy because we can grow so much here, but people, it's more convenient, they go to the grocery store to buy stuff that's being shipped in from all over the world when it's grown here. So that's where we want you to buy local to keep the money in the economy so we can kind of like work out this deficit, right? So.
And what's stopping local farms from getting into the grocery stores?
It's a pain. Like there's local farmers that, they literally just grow broccoli, put it in the ground, and their hopes is that Loblaws is going to honor their contract and buy their broccoli. What's a kicker to the local farmers is that if that broccoli has a sunspot, looks a little different, they'll say, nope, we're not taking any of it. And now their crop they've harvested it, and they took their bins to the grocery store, and they said, no, we don't want it. Because the grocery stores want perfect, they've trained the consumers who are shopping at grocery stores to want the best, the prettiest, the greenest, right? So that's what makes it really hard for local farmers, that there's no consistency. There's no honoring of contracts. It's just kind of hard, right? So that's why when you go and you meet your farmers, you can get a connection, and you can actually learn this broccoli is a little bit yellow in the spot, but that's just because the sun changed it. Just kind of like you get tan in the summer. So that's why we kind of encourage the local farming.
And that's a perspective I've never thought of before, because you're totally right. We have been trained to see the perfect tomato and the perfect zucchini. Even when I go to the grocery store and I see a zucchini with a little bit of a dent in it or a little bit of a cut, I'm like, stay away. But really, in actuality, that zucchini is totally fine. Here is my question. How is the imported food perfect? How does the grocery store get that perfect colored tomato that we can't produce here, or we can produce here, but is not being taken by Loblaws, let's say?
I just want to say this, because my knowledge isn't that great on that spectrum. It all comes down to cost of production. A lot of times, so when you buy greenhouse products from the States, that perfect tomato, they can grow them in the perfect environment for the cheapest, for the less. So the grocery stores want to buy it from them for the cheapest and have it as like the prettiest, right?
Got it.
So they're going to go for the cheapest, the best looking, no matter where the heck it comes from. Foodland Ontario is, when you shop at your Foodlands, they are a lot better because Foodland is in partnership with like what we call MAFRA, Ontario Farming Association. And Foodland works with local farmers. So that kind of helps out. Their stores will take that kind of stuff. Everyone's trying to produce the best. But a lot of times when it's produced under glass or greenhousing, you're going to get the best because it's the best environments and it's produced the cheapest. And then a lot of times in Canada, it's expensive to buy under glass, right? Everything's more expensive in Canada. If you're growing outside, like if you're growing all your products outside, you're going to have much more effect on your products by the weather. My point is they're competing, like a lot of our local farmers are competing with large scale farms who the large scales can produce it for cheaper. They're just doing it better and they're winning. They really are. Whereas we're trying our best to, boost the economy, put our stuff in the grocery stores.
And the battle is the same when you think about it because that food is the exact same. At the end of the day, when you think about that sun-spotted broccoli, it didn't travel as far to get to the grocery store to then get to your house as the broccoli that was bought local that has a little bit of a sunspot, which, let's be honest, do you finish an entire head of broccoli anyway? No, usually you get a couple or two pieces and it goes in the compost anyway. So why not just cut off that little part and put it in the compost if you want that perfect broccoli? Makes sense to me.
Yeah, exactly. Like it's, 0.1% of the whole head is bad and they forget about the rest. The other thing too is, like you just said, it's traveled how far to get to us. Because of that travel time, what a lot of people don't know is the taste effect is completely different. To last on trucks, strawberries are the best example. Our California strawberries that everyone buys for that cheap price. They're coming from California and they pick them really early so that they will not rot on the truck over here. Perfect strawberries that you'll get from here, they're at their ripest point, which is they're delicious, but they've got a really quick shelf life because they're at that perfect time.
Right.
The strawberries coming over that have to travel, hundreds of thousands of kilometers to get to us, it will not taste that good. It's totally different.
Right.
Which a lot of people don't know that. So when they have like a local berry, they're like, oh my God, this is amazing and great. But I don't want to pay $6 for this quart of strawberries when I can get it for $2 at the grocery store. So it's kind of like you have to pick and choose
where you want to invest.
Yeah. Do you want better tasting food? Are you willing to like keep the money like in your community? That's what we're trying to we're stuck with people because farming based on what we do, not based on our consumers' budgets, trying to be mindful of that. But we're trying to get the community to understand that there's a lot of work that goes into a product to make it so good. Yes, there's other products that are cheaper, but they're not better.
Right. And at the end of the day, buying a tiny bit more expensive vegetable or fruit ultimately helps the bottom line of the community financially as well. When you buy that California strawberry, is that helping our community? Are you buying it from a grocery store? How much of the money is going back to California? Those are all aspects you have to think of. When you shop local, that money is going right back to your local community. I learned a lot about a sun-spotted broccoli head here. I love it. Thank you so much for joining me for the first ever Tractor Talk.
Oh, good to be here, Taylor.
And speaking of shopping local and being able to connect with local farmers, the Uxbridge Farmers Market should be starting up again soon. And I know Cooper's CSA Farms is heavily involved in that. So do we have a launch date for that yet? Do we know when it's happening?
Yes, I believe it's May 19th. That's a Sunday. 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. and it's right beside the brewery here in Uxbridge.
So if anybody wants to go check out Cooper's CSA Farms, they will be there along with a lot of other local vendors. So make sure you check it out. If you want to visit the farm, when is the farm back open for just attraction?
The first day that we open this summer is June 13th. And we are a Thursday to Sunday operation because we need some days off in between. Check out our website if you want the hours and dates.
And your website is?
coopersfarm.ca.
Perfect. Thank you so much for joining me, Kels, and I'll talk to you next week.